go to the hotline and bring in the head coach of the state champion of 1A Division I. We're talking six-man football with a state champion head coach. The McLean Tigers. Coach Clint Linman joins us now. Coach, how are you?
I'm good, guys. How are you?
How are things in beautiful McLean, Texas?
You know what? Pretty good. It's a nice sunny day here today, so
well,
no complaints.
You guys, you make your first state championship game. You win your first state championship. What has been the vibe around town? This is a small town up there in the Panhandle. We saw all the videos of the send off. We saw this. I mean, we saw a ton of you guys at AT&T State. Probably more than actually lives in town, which I have questions about. What has been the vibe around town in these last couple of weeks?
Oh, I think there's still a big buzz going around town and even the surrounding little communities. There's still a big buzz, and that's something that's kind of special about the Panhandle.
You guys, of course, you finish off a perfect season with a state championship win over Milford. I want to talk a little bit about your team coming up here in a moment. But going into that game, going up against a Milford team that obviously is really good, and they have an outstanding individual playmaker in Tayron Smith. You guys win it 100-70. I'm interested now after the fact about your game plan, going into that game, about your mentality heading into that game, knowing what you were up against. When you were taking on a team like Milford, what was kind of the idea behind how you were going to attack them?
Well, we knew we weren't going to be able to stop Smith consistently all game long. He's too good of a player, but we wanted to dictate a little bit, try to dictate what he did and what was available to him and what wasn't available to him. And at times in the game, we did a good job trying to get the ball out of his hands quick or, get it into somebody else's hands or force him to be uncomfortable. You're just not going to, in this game, you're just not going to stop a guy like that consistently. And down the stretch, we got the stops that we needed. And on the other side of the ball, we knew we just needed to score. We just needed to line up and we just needed to go score and be physical. And then that's kind of been our MO for the 2 years that I've been here. We just want to line up and be physical and late stages in the game, see if kids want to still try to come tackle our big running backs, and then I guess that's kind of what our game plan, going into the game was.
It obviously worked, and the scoring part especially worked pretty well, and a lot of that comes back to the offensive MVP, who was Ben Crockett. This kid was unbelievable. We've known about him for a little bit, and obviously this was his breakout party. The whole state got to get to know him. He runs for 384 yards and 9 touchdowns. He also throws for 3 touchdowns as well. You're the guy who's gotten to see him every day in practice. You're the guy who's gotten to know him not only as a player but as a guy. For those who may not be familiar with Ben Crockett, what would you say is the thing that makes him special?
Well, Ben is a special player and a special young man. I think his drive. Ben doesn't shy away from anything. That has to be the characteristic to me that makes him special. He's a competitor, and when Ben wants something, he's going to go get it. And then he's just a great teammate, and for as talented and successful as he is, he's the most humble kid you'll ever meet. And so, there's a great combination of a lot of good characteristics there.
Coming into the year, Coach, we looked at your squad and we thought you guys had a chance to be pretty darn good. And then I think people may not remember that in the opener, if you go back, you guys played a team that I guess people may be familiar with in Strawn, and you guys get that win. How important do you think it was, now looking back, to get off to play the brutal non-district that you did play? How important? How do you think that prepared you for what ended up being a state championship run?
Well, we were looking forward to that game for about 8 months. From the time it was put on the schedule, we were excited and ready for that game, and we did. We played that game and took care of business in the style that we play. It was another one of those games that was real tight. And then in the fourth quarter, we pulled away by just staying physical, And we felt last year that our non-district wasn't tough enough to prepare us to play the kind of football we needed to play into district. And we just felt like we were making mistakes in district play that we shouldn't be making. And so we wanted to put a tough non-district together. And we were able to do that. And I think it really helped us become, to play to our potential this year.
We're talking with Clint Linman, the head coach of the state champion McLean Tigers here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation, #TF Today. Coach, this is, on the other side, I think people are going to look at a 100-70 game and think, okay, well, defense optional. But your defense did come up with some big plays. And one guy who really jumped off the page, ended up earning defensive MVP honors, was Chisholm Henderson. This guy was all over the field. 6 tackles for loss on the year, in the game, and 2 sacks. This guy was everywhere for you guys, not just in this game, but all year long. How important was Chisholm Henderson to everything you wanted to do?
Well, it's crazy because he probably didn't even play his best game in the state championship game. He's an amazing defender in the right place at the right time, and he's just one of those guys that loves to play on the defensive side of the ball and loves the physicality of football. That's kind of what makes him so special. I sure wouldn't want to go up against him for 4 quarters. And so, anything that he did defensively throughout the year didn't surprise me because I'm telling you, these guys practice the same way that they play. We gotta really control practice and hold them back in practice because these guys will go. I mean, they don't know anything besides going hard, and so he's an amazing defender for us and plays a few different positions defensively for us depending on what we're in. Just a really, really skilled kid, and again, another good character kid.
Coach, if you go up to McLean, Texas, and you find the football stadium there, Duncan Field, a really a beautiful stadium. With the capacity is listed at 1,000, according to our friends at Texas Bob. AT&T Stadium is a little bigger, about 100 times bigger actually. And for you guys going into that stadium, were you worried? What was your message to your kids going in, knowing that this is not just the biggest stadium that they've played in by a factor of 10. It's literally 100 times bigger than their normal home stadium. What was your message to your kids as far as handling that atmosphere?
Well, we have a couple mantras that we talk about all the time. One of them is that it's about us. It's not about anything else. It's just about us. It's not about the other team. It's not about the facility, the fans in the stands, and we appreciate all that. But it's about us. And then the second thing is the only thing that matters is what happens in between snap and whistle. And our kids play that way, and then they have their mentality that way. But on the other side of it, I think they were more so being in awe or anything. I think they were just proud to be playing there. And so it was a great experience, and what a neat deal that the UILs made that happen, because it's an experience that these kids will never forget, and some of them never do again. So it was a neat deal. But once the game got going, it was just like you're just playing. You're playing, and you don't really put into perspective where you're playing. And so it's a neat deal.
Coach, you're a Coloradan. You're out of Ovid, Colorado. You played at Revere High School. Went to 2 state championship games as a player in 6-man football. There, Ovid, Colorado is a small town right at the border of Colorado and Nebraska. And you might make your way down to Texas and you go turn Anson into a powerhouse again and then you end up there at McLean. You're in your second year there, obviously a state championship under your belt now. Why is McLean the right job for you?
Well, I've been blessed with good kids at both places, at Anton and McLean, both good kids that were passionate and wanted to be successful and wanted to do the things that it takes to be successful all year long. And so to me, that's what it is. That's what makes the success. It doesn't have anything to do with me, and has everything to do with the kids and how hungry and how passionate they are about what they want to accomplish.
Clint Linman of McLean joining us on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation. #TF Today. Coach, one more question. I know you're busy, but we we were awful impressed. I think everybody who watched your Tigers play at AT&T Stadium were awful impressed with your players. They're awful impressed with your crowd, and I think they're awful impressed with your facial hair. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the handlebar mustache, because I heard a rumor about the origin story behind this. I'm gonna give you the floor. Can you explain the outstanding handlebar mustache and its origins? Because I want to know if the rumor's true.
Well, I appreciate the compliment. And by the way, the handlebar's gone now. It's getting a little out of control. It might make a comeback one day. We'll see. But yeah, these kids, man, they're such great kids here at McLean, and we have a good relationship. The coaching staff does with these guys, and they're just good young men. And it was just, I think it was something mentioned in practice. Coach, if we win a district championship, you got to do a handlebar mustache. So, of course, this is like September, October, you know how kids are. And so, yeah, sure. And I think it was Ben that said it. And sure, Ben, we'll do that. Well, I forget about it, but, kids, they don't forget. And so we're at the pep rally, getting ready to go to our bi-district football game. And we're breaking out the pep rally, and they go, well, Coach, you said you'd do a handlebar, and here we are. We won a district championship. We're finna go play in bi-district. And so, before we left, I had to run home, and I shaved my goatee into the handlebar, and we played really well that night. And I said, well, I'm just going to keep it and until this run's over. And so that's the birth and death of the handlebar mustache.
Well, Coach, I'm not a scientist, but I will say that every time you've coached in a state championship game or in a playoff game with a handlebar mustache, you've won.
Yeah, so yeah, maybe it's a good thing, maybe I'll have to grow it back here.
Yeah, but Mrs. Linman probably has something to say about it, right?
Yeah, she wasn't a fan of it. Not a fan of it.
We've gotten to the core of the issue. He is Clint Linman. He is the head coach of the state champion McLean Tigers. Follow him on Twitter at Clint Linman. Coach, appreciate your time. Congratulations again on an outstanding season, and enjoy the offseason. We'll talk to you again soon.
Hey, you bet, guys. We appreciate you too.
There he goes, Clint Linman, the head coach of the McLean Tigers. I had heard that it was a goatee that the players said if we win, I can't remember what I had heard, but if we win a certain thing, then you got to shave it in the handlebar.
Yeah, right there.
And you know what? McLean Tigers, I appreciate the roster's commitment to holding their coach accountable. That is excellent. But yeah, I imagine that Mrs. Linman was like, oh.
How about no?
How about no? We'll keep it for the kids, but then the moment you get home,
it's done.
We're getting rid of it. Yeah. So we appreciate Coach Linman hopping on with us.